Well, I want to thank you, Lorena, for being with me today and talking about the Python web conferences coming up here in June. I'm really excited. We've got an awesome lineup of speakers, and you're one of many who are going to certainly dazzle our audience. A little bit though of background on you. I follow you on Twitter. So if you don't follow Lorena on Twitter, make sure you find her. She's got an amazing stream of stuff going on there. But you are into Star Trek, Star Wars. You love the genuine space program. Like your photos from when you were down at the Space Museum of the Atlas rocket. I just love what influenced you. What got you oriented in that direction to love all that stuff?
Sure. I think that many folks, we're obviously seeing the resurgence, right, of Star Trek, but something that I think that's really beautiful about Star Trek, be it if you're a fan of the original, be it your next gen, which is definitely what I grew up on, or, DS9, which is fantastic. And DS9 is so great. I could just ramble about DS9, but whatever your jam, I think what I really find very captivating about the idea of sci-fi, the idea of fantasy in general, is it invites you to believe, and it invites you to ask. It's open-ended, right? It invites you to kind of ask questions. And I know ever since I was a kid, my parents always would tell me, "Oh my goodness, whenever we would tell you something, you go, but why?" And I think kind of trying to keep that curiosity in your life as we grow up, we finish school, we have families, and we have all these responsibilities. I think the genre of sci-fi and fantasy allows us to kind of keep that, youth at heart, but also I don't think we do enough where we as a community encourage kind of critical thinking and thinking about open-ended questions. Granted, in Python, I totally am biased, and I will say, yes, we do. But I think that's what that kind of world all gets me into. And of course, as someone who grew up watching Carl Sagan and Cosmos, and actually I actually studied some astrophysics in undergrad, thinking about NASA and space exploration is a really cool thing. And actually on the 27th, there'll be a live NASA social experience with the next upcoming launch, which will be really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. And all this leading up to Artemis, which is going to be the first mission where we're sending people to the moon from the United States. I don't even remember how long, but Artemis is going to be that first step in building something on the far side of the moon to help us get to Mars. So anyways, space is cool. Let's keep building.
That is cool. I mean, you're totally into data too. I mean, you are just a data geek at heart. and I love that. Cause again, I follow you on there, and I've been watching all the things you kind of post, and you've been very involved in data throughout your professional career as well. I mean, tell us a little bit about, you worked on the Embodiment campaign, correct?
Yeah. It's funny. I always like to tell people, I was doing data science before there was a Wikipedia page for it. And when I talk to some younger people, in university, they're like, "Oh my gosh, what was that world like?" I'm like, don't worry. I'm not that old. But my background's actually in political science and stats. And I had, as a lifelong Chicagoan, it was kind of hard if you had a passion for things. So I'm Latina, or Latinx is how I say it. Really caring about specific causes here in Chicago, such as immigration. It was hard not to kind of get involved with some of the work that the Obamas were doing, both Michelle and Barack. And right place, right time in undergrad, studying just north of Chicago at Northwestern, and having the background of being in political science, it just kind of led me to that campaign. But what was really wild about that campaign, which today seems like, a no-brainer, was the use of tech. In that campaign. And that's really when I got my first bite really programming, not in the way that I do it today, but at the time I really had only done a little bit of matplotlib. So as I was doing more and more with the Latino vote part of the campaign, Python quickly became a language that I discovered because Chicago has a very rich Python user group. Yay, Chippy. So it would kind of one hand washes the other, so to speak. And that's kind of what kicked me off down that journey. And I haven't looked back.
Well, I'm glad it's brought you into the Python community, which we all know and love. So you are going to be speaking at the Python Web Conference coming up. What do you have in store for folks at the Python Web Conference? What can they expect from your talk, and what's going to happen there?
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in looking at the role of Python in some of the COVID projects that are actually happening in the here and now. I think, obviously everyone has been impacted by the moment we're living in, be it, your you know someone who works in the medical profession, or you are volunteering with some of these really cool open source projects, but as someone who fundamentally believes in the power of open source and Python being a great, you know, I think it was Jake Van den Plas in his keynote from 2 years ago said, like, you know, batteries all included. Yeah, which is, I think, a really great way of describing Python is, you know, Python batteries all included. Just seeing the range of ways that Python's being used to help us come together and step up to really make sure that we're being present for one another. And I think that's something to think about is, well, yes, this is a moment that is, you know, there's very somber, very hard moments with it, but if there is a silver lining at all, it has been the idea that, you know, we're in this together. And we've all been in, I think many of us, like when we first started just chatting today, Calvin, talking about community and why Python is such a happy home for us is because of community. And so I wanted to kind of channel that a little bit to think about like, where's Python in all of this, be it, you know, if it's web tech or maybe more something in the scientific space of what Python has been doing to help do some of the services, some of the work that we need to do from distance now that we can't be together.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I think the Python Software Foundation has gone a long way to foster and encourage community, where I don't see that in a lot of other software foundations, which are more concerned with like the technology and the code and those kinds of things, where I think the PSF, they've gone above and beyond, in my opinion, you know, making sure that the community is approachable by others.
Yeah, I know that one of the first people I think it was actually like the first person I saw when I came into PyCon the second year in Montreal. So what was that? 2015, 2016, what is time anymore? I don't know. But Carol Willing, who is a fantastic, you know, former director for the Python Software Foundation steering council for the core Python developers and core developer for Project Jupyter, just like all of the things, but there was like a smiling face, hand out, like, hi, I'm Carol. That has always been the face of Python for me, is kind of those moments, and pretty cool. Or like when you just casually see Guido and you're like, hey, and he's like, hey, like, what's up? And you're like, what? But yeah, definitely Python's a very, I find it to be a very accepting and warm space, be it you're seasoned or you're someone who's kind of just coming in from a, you know, be it new or returning.
I think that's great. So, and what are you personally looking forward to during the Python Web Conference? I assume you're going to join us for at least 2 or 3 of the days that are coming out.
Yeah. I personally always love Russell as a speaker. I think it's really fascinating with the Beware project, you know, thinking about, you know, Python in the web and like really what an example like what Beware can do for bringing Python more closely into the web. I always think Russell's a great speaker, and there's obviously a whole myriad of folks that are going to be really exciting. But I think for me, it's as someone who kind of sits a little bit in I do little data science, it's always good to also see, like, keep a finger on the pulse of what's happening in web, because obviously all these topics are interconnected. So I'm just really looking forward to kind of seeing that breadth of range we'll have.
So as I mentioned earlier, I've been going to PyCon for many, many years, and I've been to every PyLadies auction. And then this year, the event went online and virtual, so we didn't get to have the PyLadies auction. Is there something that folks could do to help PyLadies out? I know you're very involved with the PyLadies Chicago and CPSF and other things, but I wanted to bring this up because I felt like this is an opportunity for us to like shed a little light there.
Of course. There's actually been some really cool work with PyLadies that me and many, just a really great group of PyLadies organizers have stepped up to help us kind of kick off. We're actually going to be doing our first kind of inaugural, what we are calling the Global Council, which is going to just be a voted in or nominated in group of people that are going to help us kind of better think about the global conversation around PyLadies. So we're just trying to plug that out there, let folks know. They can go to pyladies.com, check that out on our blog. Additionally, we do have a Slack, and that is going to be the space that we are primarily maintaining. Slackin.pyladies.com. I think slackin.pyladies.com. You can request an invite. Our code of conduct is enforcement, and applies to everyone who participates there. So if you want to chat, if you have ideas for things we can do, that's a great way to find us. Cool. And then lastly, obviously, I know everyone, we're all being impacted in some way, shape, or form. But if you do have the ability, I know with donations are always welcome, and you can find that. I will share that link actually with you, Calvin, and then however we post this.
We'll post it up. We'll put it up on the social where we put this video.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, Lorena, thank you so much for being with me today. I'm
Thank
really
you.
looking forward to the Python Web Conference. I think it's going to be an amazing way for us all to
Yeah.
interact with our community on a virtual scale. Uh, Make sure you stay tuned. There's going to be social events. We're going to have board game nights. We're going to have virtual cocktails. So you'll be able to get a little bit of that taste of maybe the Pie Ladies dinner, dinner and auction,
Yeah.
or at least to hang out with some of your friends. So I
I
look
love
forward to
that.
having you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope to get to chat with some folks, be it if it's in the community space for the conference or if it's
Hmm.
online. I'm always happy to chat.
Good.
Lorena at python.org if you have any
Great.
questions.
Awesome. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thanks, Calvin.